Hey, welcome back to Professor of Genius, the only podcast where we deep dive into all the special tips, tricks, hacks, and everything you need to know about your iPhone. Get ready, it's going to be a great show. Cue the music. Oh, also, hey, quick side note before we get into it, y'all. Some exciting news. I will actually be appearing on season 21 of The Blocks this August. It's a reality TV show for entrepreneurs, and yes, I'll be repping Mr. Mac all the way. Think Shark Tank meets boot camp, but with way more coffee and a lot less sleep. It should be a pretty intense, I believe it's 4 days. It might be 5 days, but in any case, it's up in Oklahoma City and it should be a lot of fun. So if you've ever wanted to see what it looks like to build a business like Mr. Mac from the inside, or the other like 20 or 30 businesses from other highly competitive entrepreneurs that I'll be competing against, probably watch me maybe even say something awkward on camera, you're going to want to tune in. I believe it's live stream. They change it from season to season sometimes, but Facebook Live as well as Amazon Prime. So more details coming soon on that, but just a heads up, things are about to get real. Okay, are you ready for today's episode? I hope so, because it's going to wake you up, literally. Have you ever been dead asleep, dreaming about, I don't know, probably winning the lottery while Tim Cook personally thanks you for using Apple Pay, only to be blasted awake by that soul-shaking, anxiety-inducing alert and siren on your iPhone? Yeah, you've just had another run-in with the Amber Alert. It's loud, it's urgent, and it's the only time your iPhone just doesn't really seem to care about Do Not Disturb. But here's the thing, they're super important. And that's why we're talking about why these alerts exist. We're going to have our reporters go into the history of the sometimes heartbreaking background of the Amber Alert and some powerful true stories and statistics on how it actually saves lives. And like always at Mr. Mac, we'll go over how to customize your device so it works for you. And if you want to, turn them off, but maybe I can convince you to leave them on, all right? Because I get it. I totally understand. I mean, back in the fall of 2024, the state of Texas, I would say almost entirely, I don't know what was going on out in El Paso, but I know the event was in Houston. And over here, just south of Austin, we were getting the blast. It was between 2 and 3 in the morning. Let's call it 2:30 a.m. And we didn't get the Amber Alert. We got what you might have seen as an alternative notification to these emergency SMS-driven pop-ups. We got the Blue Alert. Blue Alerts typically come, and see, I actually kind of like Blue Alerts a little bit more because when I grew up and I was watching shows like The Wire, there was a big deal if you messed with a cop. I'm an Army guy. So being a veteran, I understand this brotherhood, this band of brother mentality that apparently, never been a cop, but apparently seems to exist in the cop world. So when a cop got assaulted, there was no delay in sending out that Blue Alert to try to bring that guy to justice. So in the same way that I was roused violently from my sleep with this Blue Alert coming through, and the reason that I reference the time and date is because it was all over the forums and the communications. The small community chat in the next morning was all about this Blue Alert that came through in the middle of the night. And most people were pretty annoyed by it. But if you can kind of grasp that whole defense of the brotherhood of the good old boys in blue, I do think that we can support something like that, where the first hour, the first 2 hours, the first 8 hours, the first 24 hours are so important in getting a case moved to resolution instead of it going cold, especially important with situations like the main thing the Amber Alert is here to support, which is missing kids. And that is definitely something I think we can all get behind, and a great opportunity for us to take advantage of the technology that we've invented. So we're going to bring in our field reporters here a little bit earlier than we normally do, we might say, and so that we can get behind some of the scenes of what makes Amber Alert tick. Take it away.
It's that feeling, right? You know, that like sinking feeling you get in the pit of your stomach.
Oh, yeah.
When you think about a child going missing.
It's terrifying.
It's just terrifying. And I think it triggers this like really deep almost primal instinct in all of us to protect those who are vulnerable. And that fear, that's kind of the starting point for a deep dive today.
Okay.
We're going to take a deep dive into the Amber Alert system.
Fascinating.
Its history, and really it's amazing, its impact.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head, that sense of helplessness.
Right.
It's visceral, right? And I think that's what makes the Amber Alert system so compelling. It came out of that raw emotion, and it was transformed into something that is truly a force for good.
Absolutely.
A real force for good. And it's a powerful story, right?
Yeah.
Of how tragedy, unfortunately, can inspire change, and change that actually makes a difference.
It does. And for this deep dive, we've looked at some really, I think, insightful material.
Oh, yeah.
We've got articles from CNN,
Okay.
the Department of Justice,
Uh-huh.
a video transcript from CBS 6 Albany
Okay.
that is very moving,
I can imagine.
and then some key info straight from the Texas Department of Public Safety.
Wow. So you've really covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, it gives a really comprehensive understanding of this whole system, how it came to be, what it's achieved. So our mission basically is to understand, where did this vital program even come from?
Right.
How does it actually work, when every second counts?
Exactly.
And to really appreciate its track record.
Yeah,
It's incredible. Its track record of bringing abducted children home safely.
it is. And of course, we're going to remember the heartbreaking event that was really the catalyst for the whole thing.
Right. So let's unpack this from the beginning.
Okay.
We have to talk about Amber Hagerman, this bright 9-year-old taken while she was riding her bike in Arlington, Texas, back in January 1996.
I remember hearing about that case.
Yeah. Can you imagine the fear,
Oh.
the uncertainty for her family, for the community?
I mean, it's every parent's worst nightmare.
Absolutely. And what's really important to understand is that at that time, there wasn't a nationwide system place to alert the public
Really?
when a child went missing. It was just a local tragedy.
So it was very localized. Wow.
But it highlighted a huge gap in our public safety.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, looking back now,
I know.
that something like that didn't exist.
It really shook, I think, the Dallas-Fort Worth area just to its core.
Right to its core. And you mentioned the details, and they are devastating.
They are just snatched in broad daylight
It's awful.
by someone in a black truck, and her body was found just 4 days later.
That's just heartbreaking.
So the community, they were heartbroken,
Of course.
but I think also probably a real sense of powerlessness.
Oh, absolutely. You feel so helpless in those situations.
Yeah.
And that's where this ordinary mother,
Yeah.
as the CBS 6 Albany transcript calls her,
Yeah.
that's where she stepped forward, Diane Simone.
Amazing.
This amazing woman. And she saw Amber's story, and she was moved to do something. She was moved to act. And she reached out to a local radio station with this idea. And it's a simple idea, but so powerful.
Yeah.
To use the existing emergency alert system.
Like for weather.
Yeah, the one we use for tornadoes, for severe weather, to notify the public immediately when a child is abducted.
That's incredible.
It's amazing, isn't it? And what I find so fascinating here is that you have this concerned citizen who identifies a practical solution using existing infrastructure.
That's such an important point.
It is.
That it was already there.
Absolutely.
They didn't have to reinvent the wheel.
Exactly.
It's just how do we use what we already have
Right.
for this new purpose?
Exactly. And what's so striking, I think, to both of us is that this one person's initiative, driven by such compassion, could lead to such a widespread, significant change.
It's incredible.
It is incredible. It really is. And of course, Amber itself is more than just a name. It's an acronym.
Right.
It stands for America's Missing Broadcast Emergency Response, a direct tribute
To Amber.
Hagerman.
Yeah.
And it ensures that her legacy is one of hope and rescue.
It really does. Okay. So from that initial crucial proposal by Diane Simone,
Right.
we start to see the birth and the evolution of this whole system. The Department of Justice, they talk about this initial collaboration back in 96
Okay.
between those Dallas-Fort Worth broadcasters and the local police.
So they came together.
They came together, which, it was groundbreaking.
Right.
Because it combined the reach of media
The vast reach of media.
with the power of law enforcement. So they created this immediate and really widespread net.
It was a partnership, basically, a groundbreaking partnership.
Yeah. And it was kind of like the pilot program for what would become the Amber Alert that we know today.
Interesting.
And It didn't take long for this idea to catch on, did it?
No, it spread pretty quickly.
Other states, other communities, they saw the potential right away.
The potential was clear. I mean, the need was there, obviously.
Yeah. It speaks to, I think, the immediate understanding that we need this.
We need a system like this.
We need something to protect our children.
Absolutely. And what's so encouraging is that early on, we see a documented success story.
Oh, tell me about it.
The CNN article talks about the November 1998 rescue of an infant
Okay.
in Arlington, Texas.
Wow.
The very community where Amber was abducted. And this rescue happened because a motorist, just a regular person driving, heard the Amber Alert on the radio.
Incredible.
And recognized the suspect's vehicle. I mean, that's concrete early evidence of the system working.
I mean, a difference.
And directly impacting a life.
Yeah. It must have been such an amazing moment of hope that this idea could actually work.
That it wasn't just an idea, but it could actually make a tangible difference.
A tangible difference. And the Texas Department of Public Safety, they tell us about how the Texas Amber Alert Network was formalized
Okay.
in 2002 by then Governor Rick Perry,
Okay.
and then later codified into law in 2003.
So it became like an official thing.
Yeah, it shows the commitment to not just implement it, but make it last.
To solidify it.
Solidify it for the community.
Exactly. And the great thing is the evolution continues.
It does.
Even today. The DPS points out a more recent development, which I think is really interesting.
Wow.
A 2023 law in Texas that allows for local activation of Amber Alerts in certain, critical circumstances.
Wow.
And this was directly inspired by the tragic kidnapping and murder of Athena Strand.
No, right?
And, it shows that the system's constantly being reevaluated,
So
adapted
based on what's out.
on real-world events,
Yeah.
better protect children. It's a testament to the ongoing commitment to improvement.
It really is.
Yeah.
That even when, you're having successes, you still need to learn
You always have to learn and refine.
and make it better
Yeah, make it even more effective.
for the community.
Yeah. And the DPS, they also highlight National Amber Alert Day
Right.
on January 13th, which it's an annual thing. It's a reminder to all of us
To remember.
about this crucial system and that we need to be aware.
We always need to be vigilant.
Yeah,
Public awareness is so important.
absolutely. So we've heard about the origins.
Right.
We've heard about the development. Yes.
Now let's dive into how it actually functions today.
Okay, let's get into the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah. When a child goes missing, what happens?
Exactly.
So according to the Department of Justice, the process starts when law enforcement determines an abduction has occurred
Okay.
and that specific criteria have been met.
So there's a process, there's a checklist.
Yeah. And once they've made that determination, then they immediately notify broadcasters
Okay.
and state transportation officials.
So it's a very coordinated effort
It is.
to get the word out.
And it's a multi-pronged approach, right?
Yeah.
To get this information out to the public as fast as possible.
Right.
So we're talking radio broadcasts, television broadcasts,
Mhm.
Interrupting your regularly scheduled program
Breaking news.
with these details.
Okay.
We've got DOT highway signs
Oh, right.
displaying key information,
Wow.
and even like lottery terminals and digital billboards join in
So it's everywhere.
to get the word out.
That's incredible.
And then, of course, we can't overlook the internet.
Right.
And probably most important for a lot of us, our phones.
Yeah.
The DOJ, CNN, they all emphasize how important this is. The wireless emergency alert system,
Okay.
that's what sends those alerts to your phone.
Right to your device.
And it's often with a distinctive sound and vibration.
So-
You can't miss it.
It gets your attention.
It's meant to.
And what's really fascinating about WEA is its reach and its speed.
Yeah.
I mean, CNN mentions how it was first used statewide in California
Okay.
during the search for Hannah Anderson.
Right.
And there was an unprecedented 5-state activation
Oh, wow.
in that same case.
Wow.
So it really shows the power of this technology
Yeah.
to spread information so quickly across, huge geographical areas.
It's amazing.
And it mobilizes potentially thousands, millions of people to be on the lookout.
It's incredible how fast it can reach so many people.
It's remarkable.
And the DOJ, they also clarified that WEA, it's run by FEMA,
FEMA.
the Federal Emergency Management Agency.
Okay.
And it's not just for Amber Alerts.
Right.
It includes other critical alerts.
So it's part of a larger system.
That's part of this larger infrastructure to keep you informed during a crisis.
During all sorts of emergencies.
Yeah.
Now, it's important to understand that Amber Alerts, they're not issued for every missing child.
Right.
There are specific criteria that have to be met.
Yeah.
Can you Tell us a little bit about those guidelines.
Absolutely. The Department of Justice, they provide these recommended guidelines.
Okay.
And it's important to know that most states, pretty much all states, they follow these.
They adhere to them.
And so one of them is this reasonable belief by law enforcement that an abduction has actually occurred. Not just that a child is missing, but that they were actually taken.
So they have to have some evidence.
Right. They can't just, issue it willy-nilly.
And it has to be a credible belief.
Right.
That the child is in imminent danger.
Yes. Of serious bodily injury or even death.
So these aren't, these are not taken lightly. These are serious situations.
Rare.
And that's good to know.
Yeah.
So establishing that a crime has taken place and that the situation's dire, that's like the first step.
Right.
What else is on that list of criteria?
Well, there also needs to be enough descriptive information
About the child.
about the child.
Right.
Their physical appearance,
Okay.
what they were wearing, information about the abductor if they know who it is,
Right.
or the vehicle involved.
Okay.
And it has to be specific enough to actually help.
To actually be useful.
Yeah, to help the public, to help law enforcement.
To aid in the recovery.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, the child generally has to be 17 or younger, and their information has to be entered into the National Crime Information Center system,
NCIC.
NCIC, which is a nationwide database
Okay.
that law enforcement all across the country can access.
So it's connected.
It's all connected.
It all makes sense when you think about it.
It does.
Those criteria, they ensure that Amber Alerts are used for the most serious situations.
Right.
Where time is really of the essence.
And where public awareness can actually make a difference.
Right. And the DOJ also points out that these strict guidelines, they help prevent overuse of the system.
Oh, but that's important.
Which could lead to people tuning it out.
Yeah.
So it's vital that when you get an Amber Alert, you understand this is serious.
This is serious.
And we need to pay attention.
Yeah. And it seems that people do.
Don't they?
They take it seriously.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to, I think, the most compelling part of this whole story.
The good news.
Yeah, the impact.
The impact that it's had.
The number of lives that have been saved because of this.
It's remarkable.
It's truly astounding.
It's truly remarkable. And the statistics speak for themselves.
Yeah.
As of December 6th, 2024,
Okay.
the DOJ reports that Amber Alerts have helped to recover 1,221 children.
That's incredible.
It's an incredible number.
That's so many families.
And the WEA system specifically, sending alerts to your phone, has resulted in at least 195 rescues.
Just through that one avenue.
Through that. And these aren't just numbers.
Right.
Each one represents a child
Right.
who was in danger.
Yeah.
And now they're safe
Safe. Back home.
with their loved ones. It's a testament to the power of people coming together, being vigilant.
Yeah. And CNN shares some really powerful examples of these rescues.
Oh, I'd love to hear some of them.
Yeah. Siblings in Massachusetts were found safe
Okay.
thanks to a truck driver
Wow.
who saw the alert and then spotted the suspect's vehicle.
He was paying attention
Paying
to
attention.
the details.
There was a toddler in Georgia
All right.
who was rescued because a resident recognized the stolen car
Oh, wow.
from the description, just parked overnight in their neighborhood.
From the description.
An Ohio boy was found unharmed after friends at a diner recognized the abductor's car
Wow.
from the Amber Alert.
They knew what to look for.
They knew what to look for. And
Yeah.
and each one of these, it highlights how important it is
For people to pay attention.
to pay attention to these alerts.
Be aware.
The case of Hannah Anderson
Right.
that CNN talks about, it's like a bigger example,
Okay.
right? Because it was these horseback riders
Oh.
out in Idaho
Wow.
who recognized her
From the alert.
from the alert. And it had been broadcast, across multiple states.
So it went beyond just a local area?
It really did.
Yeah.
And it shows how important it is for that awareness to spread.
To spread far and wide.
Yeah.
Because you never know who might have that crucial piece of information.
Exactly. And it's that vigilance.
Yeah.
You know,
awareness.
The willingness of people to be alert,
Right.
to pay attention to the detail.
And to act on what they say.
act on it.
Yeah.
That makes this system so effective.
It's the people. It's the community.
It's the people. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children,
Right.
they firmly believe that these rescues, all these hundreds and hundreds of rescues,
Yeah.
wouldn't have happened
Without the Amber Alert system.
without it.
That's powerful.
And it's true.
That's a really powerful statement. And this article, it does point out that, resolved in these statistics,
Right.
it doesn't always specifically mean a rescue.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a false report.
Right.
Or the case is resolved through other means. But the takeaway here, the critical takeaway, is that swift action and mobilizing that public awareness in those first few hours.
When it matters most.
When a child disappears, those are the most critical hours.
Yeah.
And the Amber Alert, it's designed to facilitate that action.
Yeah. On a huge scale.
It gives law enforcement the best possible chance.
The best possible chance.
Of a positive outcome.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, I think the core message really shines through, doesn't it?
Yeah. What's the big takeaway here?
This system, this Amber Alert system, it was born out of tragedy.
Out of heartbreak.
A heartbreak.
Yeah.
But it's fueled by this desire, this community desire to help, to protect the most vulnerable among us.
Absolutely.
And it's become such a vital tool.
It's a success story, really.
In rescuing children, in bringing them home safely.
It really is. It's a testament to the power of collective action.
It is.
And what can happen when people come together with a good idea.
Yeah. And the statistics, the stories, they're so moving.
They are. They really are.
They're a reminder to stay informed, to pay attention.
Absolutely. When you see that Amber Alert, take it seriously.
Take it seriously.
It could make all the difference.
It really could.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
Looking ahead to the future.
Yeah.
How will this sense of community continue to evolve to protect children?
And the Amber Alert system, it's laid the groundwork.
It's the foundation.
It's a strong foundation.
And maybe you, the listener,
Yeah.
maybe you could take a moment to think about this.
Yeah.
How could the principles of the Amber Alert be applied in other areas?
That's such a good question.
To other areas of public safety, to finding other missing people.
It all started with this one unimaginable act of heartbreak.
Yeah.
But it's led to so many acts of hope.
And vigilance.
Vigilance.
And ultimately, rescue.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Stephanie. That's the names we're going to go with, and appreciate the rundown on the history of the Amber Alert system. So yes, although the blue alerts certainly reference the police, the boys in blue, Amber Alert, where it all was incepted, comes from that tragic story with Amber Hagerman in Hurst, Texas, and the system coming out of that, specifically with Governor Perry signing that into law back in 2003, really before we had iPhones or phones of any kind to support it, but announcements through TV, announcements through radio. This was really a tough show to put together because it came out of a request from several of our customers at Mr. Mac, which is, hey, how do I stop these, especially, like I said, with that big blue alert in the middle of the night in the fall of 2024. A lot of requests on how do I stop these things from turning on, and we're going to get into that in just a second. But, I do want to say, I almost pulled the plug on the show, because while we try to really keep everything light and fun, the research resulted in just a really serious time, a time of research and reading, because, a couple points came to the surface. Number one, some kids don't get found, and that's a really tragic statistic. And number two, that for every alert that does come through, and they talked about this just a moment ago in the recap, there probably are 4 or 5 kids who parents really want the help of the Amber Alert that are told no. And that's heartbreaking as well, because you want to do everything that you can, but then you got to weigh the balance when you're in government or any sort of organization in between the people who need help, the parents, and then wanting to maintain the integrity of the system to make sure it's not just a kid who ran away from home, in a fit of anger, and we'll be back in a few hours kind of thing. I'm chuckling just because I did that as a kid. I remember I must have been 10 years old, and I packed up my little, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I got a handkerchief out and put it on a stick and put my essentials, maybe a little stuffed animal or something in that, and put it over my shoulder, because that's what I saw the hobos doing on the cartoons, and put it over my shoulder. And I think I told my mom I was leaving, and she could see me out of the back window, and she let me stomp off and spend about 20 or 30 minutes before calling it quits and coming home for dinner. But Of course, there are situations that are way more serious than that. And Amber Alert has been successful. You heard statistics there from the hundreds to the thousands of kids who were found, at least in part, by this type of technology. And so while we're going to get into right now, showing you where to turn them on or off, please do consider the importance of this system and how it's helped bring hundreds, thousands of families back together since becoming a response to the tragedy of Amber and her family in Hearst, Texas, all those years ago. So if you want to adjust the settings or at least take a look at them, because there are a lot more than just Amber Alerts that you can toggle. First of all, open up, you guessed, the Settings app, scroll to Notifications. Once you click on it, go all the way to the bottom. You're going to go past all of your apps and be reminded on how you definitely need to clean up your apps sometime this summer. But when you hit the bottom, you're going to see a new section that's always there, regardless of what apps are installed, called Government Alerts. Amber Alerts are going to be at the very top, and the one that I want to show you is number 2, and that's Emergency Alerts. Because in here, you'll want to make sure that local awareness is on. Okay, this is going to increase your ability to help and also the government's ability to focus and not spread the alerts further than they need to be based upon that switch right there. So you can see it, Apple can use your approximate location to improve the timeliness, accuracy, and reliability of emergency alerts you receive. And then the second one, I suggest maybe turning off, especially if you feel like you still want to help. Your heart may be touched by the opportunity to help out a family in need, but you also don't want to necessarily get alerted when you're in a public place. You can turn off Always Play Sound, and you'll probably be supported by the other 9 or 10 phones also going off in the meeting around you, that you can check your phone and be on the lookout for the car, the truck or the car or the license plate that's listed there in the pop-up notification anyway. And then you can also go back right underneath it. You'll have public safety alerts. And if you're considering leaving this one on, certainly consider leaving on Amber Alerts there as well, because public safety, of course, is things that will probably affect your safety, like a hurricane or a storm or an event that you should take notice of. And then we probably want to go ahead and leave off Test Alerts, right? That's the very bottom option there. And unless you just like the warm and fuzzy that comes with the beeping of the emergency broadcast system, or as our field reporter said there, the wireless emergency alert system in this case, you can leave that one off and let the testing be confirmed by the technician who just sent out the test and then looked at his phone to say, yes, this thing is working. All right. And yeah, it really is an awesome technology that can help cops in their line of work, parents in their greatest time of need, or you in your desire to help, whether that's actively looking in response to an Amber Alert or just saying a personal prayer. Helping families stay intact is part of a healthy community. So thank you for every contribution, big or small. And thanks for being part of this community. I really appreciate everyone who's joined, whether McMaster tier or just a customer at Mr. Mac. Next week, we'll be launching a YouTube video about this very topic. So if you weren't able to follow along as I ran through the settings and the notifications, just tune into our YouTube page at Mr. Mac Podcast to watch it in video form. And then in 2 weeks, we'll be back on the air with our next podcast talking about the newest powers of your beloved iPhone. Till then, be blessed.